Founded on the principle of expanding the conversation around beauty and business, I was tired of listening to basic, shallow advice and raw, hustle hard motivation that I started this podcast for those seeking to create something much more meaningful with their lives without having to sacrifice what felt right for them. A bit of a rebel, I don't do business like most people, and it served me well. So if you're a bit of a rule breaker yourself, seeking for a place to go deep without judgment and bridge a bit of the woo with the work, then you're in the right place. After 25 years of being a serial entrepreneur, I now know that the level of financial success you have is in direct proportion to the level of your own personal growth. So without further ado, welcome to the Beauty Expanded podcast. Hey guys, it has been a while since I uploaded an episode. I always try to commit to uploading at least one episode a month, and it's taken me a few weeks to even figure out what I wanted to talk about this month. And so I wanted to fill you guys in on what's been happening behind the scenes. So a couple of things, it's summer, and I hope that you have been enjoying a great summer. I have been booking trips. We just came back from San Diego with the family, and we have a couple more staycations coming up. And so I've really just taken some time to figure out how I want to plan our summers, create some quality time with our kids, and create those memories. I mean, at the end of the day, why work as hard as we do? And I've just kind of taken a step back and been like, okay, how do I want to spend the money that I make and create? After having my little one in kindergarten, I think I finally got down the school schedule, which has had me planning out the months and school breaks a little bit differently. I had a hiccup recently on our last training. I just did not understand or know the school schedule. First year as a mother with a kid in school, and I had booked our last training on the same week that he was graduating from kindergarten, or what do you call it, like being promoted into first grade. And I just felt horrible for missing his kindergarten performance. The mom guilt was real. And so at that moment, I was like, okay, I need to better plan my work schedule with my life schedule and the things that are really important. That was a big learning lesson for me. And with that, I had been more intentional about, okay, what are we doing for the next couple months as a family, and what trips are we planning? Even if it's a staycation, which I've been loving. It's hella hot in Arizona during the summer. It was 117 the other day, and I have found that laying out by the pool, swimming, has been really great at not only spending quality time with my son, but also being able to truly ground and unplug from social media and my business. It is the quickest way I can shut off business mode. And that doesn't come easy for me. Now that I've realized that, I really do try to make a point for us to spend time by the poolside every weekend. So I hope as you're listening to this, that you have those moments for you and your family, because those moments are the ones that we're going to remember as we age. It's those memories and quality time that we spend with people that far outweigh the income that we can be generating for business. And that brings me to where I've been professionally as well. I have been a little burnt out, not with my business, but with social media. I have been scaling back. I don't know if you've seen or have noticed, but it's changed. And the algorithms to Instagram and Facebook are always going to be changing and evolving. And I get that. But what I don't like, which has been completely turning me off from wanting to get trapped into the race of social media, is the fact that I feel like we've become a slave to their game, to what they want for their business. And it's that saying, you got to pay to play. And while in some instances, I do believe that's true, there's nothing wrong with that, because social media is a business in itself and every business deserves to make a profit. But what I don't like is the feeling that I am now working for someone. and I'm now an employee to Instagram, for example. It's one of the reasons why I started my business and why I've always been entrepreneurial, is because I really value freedom. And freedom to me means that I get to do what I want, when I want, and I get to create and generate income in the ways that I want to. And I feel like lately, with all of that changes and even being shadow banned because of my nipple tattooing, which is a whole nother story, which is extremely frustrating. I definitely have noticed our viewerships on our posts have been down, likes have been completely low, to the point where you'd almost think that I bought my followers because it's so low. And then what's constantly popping up in my Explore feed are other influencers and social media managers that are telling you how the algorithms changed again and that Reels have now completely changed. So it just got me thinking, okay, that's not what I'm looking for. I'm not looking to be an employee to Instagram. I don't want to follow their rules in order to be visible and seen. And while I do understand that Instagram is very important to have, or Facebook or YouTube, I've definitely changed my strategy and mindset when it comes to social media marketing. And I hope that this episode gives you the opportunity and space to really reevaluate how you want to use your social media when it comes to growing your business, and that you do have a say. Because I know for myself, running and growing my own business, serving my clients, my students, is already a full-time job. And then after work, I'm trying to be a present mother and a wife. I'm not in the marketplace to work another job, also known as Instagram. So let's talk about it. I believe buyers' trust is at an all-time low, which means that everyone has been influenced, tricked, duped into buying into something, investing into something, whether it's a product or a service. Every one of us has had that experience where we feel like we've been ripped off, where we really didn't get what was promised, where someone overpromised something and underdelivered. Because of that, it's also influenced the way that people are buying. People today are wanting to just have more control over their money. Elections are coming up, inflation, groceries are higher than ever. And so it makes sense that in the season that we're in, people are just wanting to feel like they have more control over how they spend their money, but more importantly, who they spend it with. And so I believe more than anything, it's important for us as an artist and as a business owner to begin to nurture that buyer sequence in a way that makes them feel something that's authentic. I have changed my methodology when it comes to social media, which is simply to provide an experience, to evoke an emotion. And it's as simple as that. I feel like with social media, especially with Instagram, because I know a lot of you are on Instagram and rely on Instagram, people are using social media to just be entertained and for like quick things. So for example, if I'm looking for a new bikini, I am going to be searching bikini brands and styles on social media, but they're not necessarily on social media to learn something. So I feel like social media should be used for kind of those instantaneous purchase things that are pretty easy to digest and just be like, yep, I'm going to follow this account, or yep, I'm going to check out this website, and or just for pure entertainment value. Now, entertainment can come in many different variations. It can be inspiration, like inspiring quotes. It can be humor. I love a good funny video that comes across my feed. But one of the things that I want you guys to know is that when it comes to education, I feel like the market today is navigating education towards more of a longer format space. For example, I have been intentionally creating videos just for our YouTube account, which is longer formatted content. The podcast is also a great place where people are in a place where they really want to learn and be motivated and inspired, but they're wanting to digest more information than just like a quick 15, 30-second reel. When I am posting now, I'm just trying to bring someone into my world. There are two different niches that I market towards, which is one, the students that are looking to become a paramedical tattoo artist, and then two is the consumer, the client that is looking for something to be camouflaged. On my Instagram, really what I'm doing is I just started pushing towards the consumer to test this out. And I'm just creating more shorter formatted content that's really just to either evoke an emotion and or an experience. I want my Instagram to be an experience. And when they click the link to my bio, they'll have access to our website, our podcast, our YouTube videos, which has a ton more content on what the next steps are, which is to book a consultation or to give us a call or whatever the case may be. But social media, I believe right now, is better suited to just nurture your audience and feed a little bit of that entertainment, inspiration, motivation, and possibility. And that's it. Whereas I feel like for lead generation, to literally get people to book with you, so the sales aspect of your business, that is going to be better suited by doing ads. And I feel like so many of you are too dependent on doing organic marketing to get followers to eventually become customers. It's a really interesting phenomenon because so many people rely on Instagram and Facebook or whatever the case may be, and they are putting so much energy into hoping that this one particular post or this perfectly edited reel is going to yield them 2 or 3, 500 clients, followers, whatever the case may be. And that simply isn't true. Social media, though it may be free, actually does cost something. And what it costs you is time, energy, and resource. And so it's actually not free, right? Like that whole saying, nothing is free. If you're relying on generating leads, like people who are ready to book, people who are looking for the services that you offer, if you're wanting to generate those people, the fastest track to that is by doing ads. And that's where you have to pay to play. When you begin to switch your mindset about your social media platform and your strategy, it then feels like a lot less pressure. Because now I'm not relying on trying to get visibility and trying to run the social media rat race of keeping up with their new algorithm and all the things that Instagram is requiring from me in order for me to be seen and increase my visibility for that one off chance that someone actually DMs me. I'm no longer worried about that because I know that spending the extra $500, $1,000 on Google Ads, for example, that is actually what's generating those quality leads for me of people who are looking to book right now, who are looking to commit to a solution to their problem. And I feel like a lot of beautypreneurs are actually thinking quite the opposite. They're thinking that social media is free, I can't afford advertising, which if you do think that is the reason why you can't afford advertising is because you're relying too much on social media. And look, I understand why you think that. I've been there before, but I'm telling you, it is the slowest way to grow your business is to rely on organic followers. When you begin to reposition your strategy and use social media as to only just nurture your followers and your potential leads, because someone may come across my Google ad who's never heard of camouflage tattooing, who will then maybe look up our social media profile or our website to look at our before and after photos. But no matter what, so yes, I believe I need to have a social media presence. Everything needs to be polished and up to a standard that is congruent to the prices that we charge. And that's something I'll dig into a little bit further. But essentially, social media is there to help nurture that buyer sequence. But where I'm actually getting those buyers, how I'm actually generating those buyers is through advertising. Advertising is the fastest way to grow your business because someone who is mindlessly scrolling through Instagram to be entertained or to waste time because they're in line at the gas station, for example, is not a ready buyer right now. Versus someone who's researching and literally Googling how to get rid of my scar. That person has an itchy problem. And what I tell my students is an itchy problem is something that is going to keep you up at night. Unless you itch it, it's going to just keep annoying you. Those are the people that I want to attract, is people who actually know that they have a problem, who are already motivated and seeking a solution. And the fact onto why I know that they're motivated is because they're literally putting it in the Google search bar and they're reading blogs or whatever the case may be. So I want to be sure that my ads are being sent to those people who are ready to do something now because it's an itchy problem. And then that increases my chances that they're going to then click our ad, look at our before and afters, maybe do a little bit more research, but get them inspired enough to submit an inquiry, which then we can contact them and set them through the whole process of how to actually book with us. That to me is way more valuable because that person has action behind their intent versus someone who's just mindlessly scrolling the internet, may not even know that this is a problem right now. Maybe this is a nice thing to have, or maybe, again, they weren't even aware that it was a problem. The chances of me being able to convert them into a client when they're just mindlessly scrolling for entertainment sake value is going to be a lot lower. That's why I think it's one of the biggest mistakes that artists make today is thinking that organic marketing on social media is going to help grow their business. I think you have to be on social media. So I'm not going to take that away. Like, you have to be on social media. But I think it's the backwards approach of believing that's how you're going to generate leads. Because I just think, especially in today's market, it is going to be the slowest way to get a client. I also think, for example, my assistant, she is also trained in stretch mark and scar camouflage, and she does not do ads. And she is posting on Facebook groups, promoting her business and her services at least 2-3 times a week, plus doing reels, plus being on TikTok. And in the 8 months that she's been doing this, she's closed 2 clients in 8 months. She's gotten a handful of inquiries, maybe every month, a handful. So I'm just saying like 5, let's say 5 DMs in the full entire month. Those numbers, the math is what leads the path. And so when you begin to look at the numbers, that to me doesn't make sense. That is a lot of time and energy to put into something that's barely giving me anything back. And I don't want to have a business, like it wouldn't make business sense to me to be constantly promoting my business to only have 2 clients actually commit in 8 months. That's a horrible marketing plan. Those numbers are horrible in regards to return on investment. Versus when we're doing ads, we're getting like 5 inquiries a day. And then maybe out of the 5, we'll get 2 people that are actually interested and we're communicating with, and then they book a consult, and then I close about 70% of all my consults. That to me is the odds are much more in my favor when I'm doing ads. You then have to begin to look at advertising differently too, because so many people think of it as an expense. And yes, technically your CPA is going to tell you it's an expense, but really it's an investment back into your business. Because if I told you, if you were in front of a slot machine right now, and I told you that every time you invested $5 into that slot machine, you'd get $50 back. At that point, it's like, how many times is it worth to you to invest $5 to always get $50 back in return? That's another way to start thinking of advertising. It's like, yes, we spend on average $1,000. I'm just going to say $1,000 a month. Sometimes it's more than that. But let's just say on average, we spend about $1,000 a month on advertising. If one of my services is $1,500, so if I close a client and I'm quoting her $1,500 for a service, that's 1 client a month that you just paid for my entire advertising budget, but that's 1 client. Whereas that advertising budget has given me 50 leads, and I'm pretty sure I can close more than 1 out of 50 people that inquire. That's how I think about how much to spend when it comes to my advertising to be able to generate those leads and start making profit and generating income into my business, than to rely on free, and I say that in quotes, free marketing. Because again, like we said, nothing is really free. The last thing I want to do is feel like a slave to social media and to be so freaking dependent on them generating leads for me, which I believe is really not set up in our favor. I think social media's true objective is for us to just spend our time, which time is really valuable. It's for us to spend time on social media. I don't really think they care about us necessarily growing our business. I think they care more about the seconds, the minutes, and the hours that we're actually on their app for advertising and all that other stuff. The other thing I wanted to expand upon is when it comes to your social media too, is however you price out your services, whatever type of caliber you want to market your brand as, and quality and professionalism of your brand, you want to be sure that your social media is a reflection of whatever that is. A lot of you, and I'm speaking to paramedical tattoo artists, your dream, and I know this because you've shared it with me, is your dream or your goal is to work with a plastic surgeon or a medical office of some sort. And yet, if your social media is built on reels that are really funny, cheeky, and not necessarily professional, maybe they're on trend with some of the audios or whatever. But if you don't have that professional standard of clinical, medical, that's not in congruency. That's not reciprocal in energy and branding and your image, but more so, it's like imagining if that doctor or that the surgeon was to recommend you to a client. Would that surgeon be comfortable recommending your Instagram account to their client who they're working with? So if you have reels that can be kind of offensive, like for example, I think it's really tacky when business owners create reels where they're talking shit about their clients. And even though they're trying to be funny, I just think it's really tacky and it's a lack of professionalism. If you walked into any med spa or a doctor and they were talking shit about a client to you in front of your face, like how unprofessional would that doctor look to be or as? And so why would you want to do that on your social media? So don't do that, one. And then two, if you are the type of person that wants to charge more for your services, and yet your photos and images and reels and content is not professional and it's not of higher quality, the lighting's poor, it's grainy, that is going to be one of the reasons why you're having a hard time. Everything has to be congruent. So the level in which you want to play has to be congruent with the image that you're portraying. Social media is very image and value based. And it makes sense that people who are in the beauty space would need to be sure that their content is extremely professional and high quality. You don't really trust a hairstylist that has a horrible hairstyle, and you certainly wouldn't invest top dollar for them. And so it's no different when it comes to social media and how you want to portray yourself. If you're a paramedical tattoo artist looking to build connections with other surgeons in your area, you really have to look at your branding and ask yourself, if I was a doctor, would I feel comfortable putting my name on this referral if I sent someone to look at my Instagram, or if I sent them my contact information? Is my website professional enough? Do I have before and afters? Are they high quality, or are they grainy and blurry? Is my content offensive? And then the other thing is, how quickly do you want to grow your business? And if the answer is fast, I would highly suggest you looking into doing ads, whether it's with Meta, which is like Facebook, Instagram ads, whether it's with TikTok, whether it's with YouTube. I personally love Google Ads. We've tried doing tons of ads on Meta, and social media is just not where my market is. We get a ton of leads. We'll contact them. I know that we have a fast response rate, but for whatever reason, we just don't do well with Meta ads. So that's why I just double down on Google Ads, because even though they are typically priced higher than Meta, I double down on Google Ads because that's where I have found more success. And I feel like Google has a higher quality buyer in the sense that, and when I say higher quality, what I mean is someone who is ready to do something right now, who legitimately is aware and researching and motivated to fix their problem. So that's where we spend our advertising dollars. Our Google Ads manager that we had for years ended up taking a sabbatical. He had something happen and just needed to take a break for an undetermined amount of time. So we hired another ads manager. And again, you can do this on your own if you'd like, but I have no interest in learning how to do ads. And so I'd rather hire someone to manage our ad campaigns and to create them and all of that stuff. So it's called an ads manager. So we ended up hiring another person, and she's great. But there was about a 2-week period where we had to transition everything to her. And we were even expecting that our leads would come down. Like I knew that there was going to be a little bit of a glitch in the matrix, as they say, and that we were going to notice a dip in our leads. What I didn't expect, though, which was so eye-opening for me, is I had no idea how much our business is dependent on ads as generating leads for us. Because in the 2 weeks that we transitioned her over, we had zero leads come in. And of course, we're tracking our Google ads and all that stuff. So we know when someone's just filling out a form on my website, or if they're from social media, and or if they're coming from an ad. And that was so eye-opening for me. That was the week where I should have done a podcast then because it was so fresh in my mind. But I was like, I gotta talk about this because it was so fascinating to me. And we have a social media presence. We're good on that. But it was really fascinating to me to see, wow, how many of our leads literally come in through ads. And it made me realize how valuable our ad spend is. It made me actually want to increase our ad budget because I was like, wow, like that, I just didn't have any idea. I guess I did have an idea, but I didn't have anything to truly validate that for me until those 2 weeks had happened. And then it was from that point where I was like, people need to do ads. Like they cannot rely on social media to grow their business. And if you do rely on social media to grow your business, again, I just think it's going to be the slowest way to do it. If this is really new for you, I would say first things first is there's a couple of options. So one, I would decide first, which platform do you want to experiment on ads with? Because there are some people who do really well promoting and boosting ads on Instagram and Facebook, which is called Meta ads. And then other people do Google ads and some people do YouTube or whatever the case may be. So one is I would first look at your following. Where do you have the most engagement? And then two, why don't you just try and advertise with that platform? So if you've never advertised before, again, there's a couple of options. YouTube is a wealth of information. So you can literally go on YouTube and learn how to create ads and figure out like what things mean, click per rate, and like all of the things that you're going to be paying, and then come out with a budget that you would like to experiment with. I would say give it at least 3 months. 3 solid months, because if this is your first time ever doing ads, you're gonna need data. And without the data, you can't really begin to pivot on what's working, what's not working. The data is what's actually going to give you information on the type of content that does work, photos, videos, is it carousels? And so that's the second step, is find a budget that you can commit to for 3 months and do it consistently. And then from 3 months, you can literally begin to analyze what's working and what's not working for your particular business. If you don't want to do that, so let's say you don't have a lot of time in your hand, or you have zero interest and you'd rather hire someone, then I would then go on Upwork. I'm sure there's a ton of Instagram, like social media managers. If you look that up on tags or digital advertisers, you can look that up. But if you're just looking for an independent contractor, I personally really like Upwork. It's upwork.com, where you can look at people's resumes and their reviews. And you can also look at their budget, like how much do they charge to manage and implement ads. And then I would set up interviews with them and get to know them. Be open, by the way, to working with people out of the country as well, or out of state. And then when you find someone, then again, they're going to suggest you do at least 3 months as well. And they're going to suggest an advertising budget on what you should commit to on just the ads alone. And obviously they're going to have a monthly rate or an hourly rate that they charge for just managing your ads. That is not inclusive of the ad spend typically, which means that whatever the ads actually cost you per click or whatever the case may be, you're going to have to pay that out of pocket yourself. And most advertising platforms like Meta, Google, I think all of them will require you to have a business card on file, and then it just automatically charges you. But you can set a budget on how much they're able to charge you. So you do have a little bit of control in that. And so those are all great options to get started in this. But for someone who's listening to this right now being like, yeah, let me just wait until I get some income coming in, I'm telling you, it's the backwards way of thinking. Waiting, you're just wasting time. So if you're in that position, reframe it as to the reason why you can't, or you feel like you think you can't afford it right now, is because you haven't actually done it. And so if you have a credit card and you can put that in and start testing that out right now, I would absolutely 100% encourage that, instead of waiting for you to close a client, because the chances are is that wait game is costing you something. And when that income finally comes in, you're going to have to still pay rent. You're still going to have to pay for this or that, or whatever the case may be. There is always going to be something that you have to pay for. And so I always say people pay for what they prioritize. And if your business, growing your business, making it a viable income generating business for you because you wanted to work for yourself and own your own business is 100% the reason why you need to invest in it now. And just because you don't see it right now doesn't mean that you can't make it. And then the final piece of advertising is when those leads start coming in is having a system in place where you can begin to respond to those leads right away. So if it's going to take you 2 or 3 days to get back to someone, you have lost them. And that's really where a lot of people waste their money in advertising, is because they haven't set systems in place to actually begin to respond to these leads right away while the iron is hot, I think is what the saying is. When people are wanting something right now and they're clicking your ad because it's a solution for a problem right now, I'm in that moment of I need this as a buyer, you want to be able to capture them right away, like literally while everything is hot and ready. And so if you're the type of person that takes days to get back to people, takes days to text people back, you are wasting your time and you might as well not be doing ads. So you have to have something in place to be responsive, especially if it's just you. Because if you're in session with someone for a couple of hours doing their brows and a lead comes in as you were setting up the table or whatever, and you don't get back to them in a couple of hours later, you're basically dwindling down your chance of closing them and interacting with them gets much, much smaller. That window of opportunity shrinks the longer that it takes you to respond back to them. You have to have something in place, and an ads manager can help you with that. A CRM, a customer retention software, such as like Vagaro, for example, like all of these things can be automated through your ad campaigns, which your manager can do or you could look it up on YouTube. But there's ways to automate those responses so that way someone is touching them right back after a hot lead has come in. And then the final piece of that is actually doing the consultation or having the phone call with them, talking about pricing, all of that stuff. So that's like the selling part of it. And a lot of people have gripes about selling and they feel icky about it. But again, that's a huge part of doing advertising is if you have all these leads coming in, but you can't close them, then it means something's broken. And oftentimes that's the way in which we present ourselves when it comes down to talking about and owning our prices and our services, the confidence behind that and what value you offer someone and you could bring to them and the amount of possibility that you portray to them. Because again, they could be someone that's had this problem for a long time. Maybe they've done everything and under the sun, wasted money, and nothing has worked until they've come across you. And so being able to close them is another art form of selling. And it's a huge part of running successful ads as well. And maybe I'll do another episode on just selling. If that's something that you guys are interested, let me know. But that's also a huge part of obviously growing your business. And so many people are turned off by selling and feeling and coming off as sleazy, and it just gives them all the ick. And yet it's the lifeline, like the bloodline of your business, because your business cannot sustain itself without selling. And it's all a matter of changing your mindset about selling and getting strategic about it. Like I'm not just getting on the phone with people just to talk and be their friends. Being someone's friend does not guarantee a sell. And there's a whole sales process in what we do as well. And because we're also higher ticket. So our business model is very different, but it also works. And so if that's something that you guys like me to dig into, let me know. I'd love to know that. I love talking about sales because I also know that it can unlock so much opportunity and income for a lot of entrepreneurs in the space. And yet I also know that it's such a huge block for a lot of you guys when it comes to owning your value. And so I hope this was helpful to you guys. Let me know what you think, and I will catch you guys on the next one. Happy advertising. Thank you so much for listening. If you loved this episode, please share it with a friend. Even a simple repost on your stories or leaving us a review helps others as well on this entrepreneurial journey. And if you're someone looking into starting an exciting career in paramedical tattooing, your best bet is to check out our YouTube channel, where we share industry insights on what it's really like to tattoo and help people transform their lives for a living. For beauty entrepreneurs, whether you're new or experienced, I also offer one-on-one coaching calls where we dive deep into your business to help you grow and scale it on your terms. I truly believe every problem has a solution, And the very definition of being an entrepreneur is being a problem solver. But sometimes it takes another person's perspective to help you move past a block, especially when you're in the thick of it. I want to see you win, and if you'd like some one-on-one support from me, you can find details on our site to book a call. You don't need to do this alone. Okay, loves, thanks so much for your time and have an incredible day.